Okay, but you guys, this story is actually insane. Gypsy Rose, yes, that Gypsy Rose is now comparing herself to Jesus Christ. And to make things even more shocking, she's being accused of cheating on her husband, Ken. First, she's made a statement about faith that spiraled into what people saw as mockery. Then, she was seen getting cozy with a man who did not even look like Ken. It's like watching a real time identity crisis unfold. So grab your coffee because this story gets wilder the more you hear it. It all started with Gypsy's latest so called faith talk, and honestly, I had to replay it twice because the way she said it was confusing, to say the least. Like, when someone's talking and you can just feel something's off, that was me. She starts off saying she's not comparing herself to Jesus Christ. And at first, I'm thinking, okay, cool. She's just trying to talk about faith, right? But then, literally in the same breath, she goes, I try to model my life after Christ. And I'm sitting there like, wait, hold up. Girl, what? You just said you aren't comparing yourself to him, and now you're literally saying you want to model him? That is like saying you're not trying to copy someone's test, but you're sitting right behind them, looking at every answer. It's giving contradiction. And the way she said it, soft voice, steady eyes, and you could tell she really thought she was saying something deep. She starts talking about reading the Bible, praying every Sunday, walking in his footsteps, and for a moment I'm almost believing her sincerity. But then she takes this left turn, and out of nowhere she says something that makes your jaw drop. She brings up Jesus Christ again and starts using him as her personal example. Like, she wasn't just admiring his teachings, she was comparing her own journey to his.
I am in no way saying I'm anything like Christ. I try and model Christ on Sundays. I read my Bible. I try to model the path of Jesus. I really do. But if you think on it, and you just think on it for a second, the Jews crucified Jesus because they didn't believe that he was the Messiah. And if he would have just said, I am not the Messiah, I'm just a mortal man, they wouldn't have crucified him. But he died because he died in his truth. Period. Now let that sit with people.
I want y'all to keep in mind, this is the woman that used a man that was collecting a permanent disability check to unalive her mom. And we also know that she had her hands in it too, based off of the evidence we've seen. But he had a low IQ, autism, and other mental health issues, collecting permanent disability, and has villainized that man, villainized her mom, when her mom didn't do anything to her other than her grifting. And she grifted to help her. And Gypsy was in the grift too. She was 23 years old. But the fact that she has villainized this woman, when she would never even make any of this money if it wasn't for the fact that she had her mom offed. This is the woman that says she tries to model. Wow. I have no words. I'm flabbergasted, like completely flabbergasted.
And I don't know about you guys, but that's a massive claim. That's not light talk. That's the kind of statement that makes you blink twice and think, did she really just say that? Then she takes it further, and this is where it gets weirdly theatrical. She says people should think about how the Jews crucified Jesus because they did not believe he was the Messiah. And then she adds, if he had just said he was mortal, he wouldn't have been crucified. And finally, she drops this line. She says, he was unalived for his truth, and she pauses. Like, dramatically, you could tell she wanted that to land. And then she says, I want people to sit with that. And I swear to you, the way she said it, it gave me chills. But not in the inspiring kind of way. More like the, is this real life right now? Kind of way. It felt rehearsed but emotional. Like she was crafting this moment to make herself look deep and persecuted at the same time. And look, besties, I try not to nitpick, but here's where I lost it. She literally got the story wrong. It wasn't the Jews who crucified Jesus, it was the Roman soldiers. That might sound like a small detail, but to people who actually read scripture, it is not. It shows she's not really speaking from understanding. She's speaking from performance. She's speaking and choosing Bible moments that make her look relatable. It's giving Pinterest Christianity. Like, she's borrowing sacred language to make herself sound profound. Still, once you strip away all the confusion and mixed messaging, the core message becomes clear. Gypsy sees herself as misunderstood, misjudged, crucified by society for being too honest. In her mind, she's this modern day martyr who suffers for her truth. But the problem, that truth keeps shape shifting. Every interview, every social post, it changes. It's like watching someone write a memoir in real time, editing the chapters depending on who's listening. 1 minute she's the victim, then she's the warrior, and now she's the misunderstood saint. And honestly, keeping up with her storylines is like trying to hold water with your hands. It just keeps slipping through. To really understand her new statements hit people so hard, we have to rewind for a second. Like, you can't listen to what she's saying now without remembering where she came from. Because when you know her story, every word she says now just sounds off. It's like hearing a villain quote scripture. You can't help but think, wait, what? So Gypsy used Nick, a man with mental disabilities and a low IQ, to unalive her own mother, Didi. And this wasn't some spur of the moment, heat of the moment decision. No, she planned it for 2 whole years. 2 years. That is not impulse, that is premeditation. She even tried once before with a BB gun, and now she's saying she's modeling Christ? Like, I don't even know how to process that. The irony is so thick you could cut it with the knife. How do you say that with a straight face knowing what you've done? It is almost chilling. Nick later confessed that he delivered only a few fatal wounds. Yet Didi's body was found with many more injuries than his story accounts for. And that is the part that always makes people pause, because if his version doesn't match the evidence, then what really happened that night? Was Gypsy more involved than she lets on? Something just doesn't add up. She keeps pointing fingers at Nick, at her mom, at anyone but herself. She calls them manipulative, abusive, controlling, and maybe some of that's true, but it is like she's allergic to accountability. In her story, she's always the victim. Always. And here's where it gets even harder to swallow. She pretended to be disabled for years. She got sympathy, free trips, donations, and national attention. And she wasn't some naive child being tricked into it. She was old enough to know exactly what was going on. That's the part people forget. She was an active participant in the deception. She wasn't trapped in her mother's story. She was helping write it. She played along, smiled for the cameras, and went along with it every lie because she benefited from it. And even now, when she talks about being medically abused, some things just don't line up. Doctors have said she has a chromosome disorder that could explain a lot of her supposed illnesses. So, it makes you wonder how much of what she says now is truth and how much is another carefully edited version of her story. And fast forward to now, this same woman is walking around wearing a crown of thorns necklace. I'm not kidding. A literal symbol of Christ's suffering hanging around her neck like it's a fashion statement. This is the same Gypsy who not that long ago wore a pentagram in prison and accused her mother of witchcraft. And now she's talking about salvation, forgiveness, rebirth.
Not only is Gypsy Rose comparing herself to Jesus Christ and her situation to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, she is now wearing a crown of thorns around her neck. Now, remember, it wasn't too long ago that GRB was wearing a pentagram around her neck. Now, if you've been living under a rock and don't know who Gypsy Rose Blanchard is, she is the woman who in 2015 got an autistic man to unalive her mother for her after years of planning. He is now doing life in prison without parole after GRB did a very short sentence of 10 years, paroled after 8. GRB has done nothing but cause controversy and scare people since her release. I called it along with other creators. GRB is now entering her Christian phase. GRB, remember, one of the 10 commandments is thou shalt not unalive, especially their mother who took care of you with your 1Q2 1.1 microdeletion. What are y'all's thoughts on GRB's newfound beliefs? Do you think it's real or is it a performance? I think we all know the answer to that question.
The pivot is so dramatic, it almost feels like a movie. And not a feel-good one either. It's the kind that makes you side-eye the screen and whisper, what is happening? Because are we watching genuine faith or another Gypsy Rose rebrand? And you guys, we've seen this pattern before. The influencer phase, the painting phase, the dancing phase, the mommy vlogger phase, and now the Christian redemption arc. It is like she collects personas the way some people collect hobbies. New phase, new storyline, same underlying chaos. At this point, it doesn't feel accidental, it feels strategic, like she's constantly auditioning for the next version of herself. Only now, she's not just rebranding her image, she's rebranding her soul. And that is what makes this so eerie, because when you start using something as sacred as faith to reinvent yourself, it stops feeling like growth and starts feeling like manipulation. This isn't just about spirituality anymore. It's about control, image, and crafting a version of yourself the world will buy. And that is why people are so uneasy watching her now. It's not that she's changing, it's that every change feels like a performance dressed up as redemption. And just when you think it can't get more chaotic, here comes the cheating scandal. Like, no. Seriously, this spot had me staring at my screen in disbelief. Gypsy posts this photo of herself all snuggled up with a man. No face, just his arm wrapped around her. It looks intimate, cozy, and like a movie moment. And of course, everyone assumes it's Ken, but the internet never misses. People zoomed in, slowed it down, analyzed it like a crime scene, and they start noticing things that don't add up. The skin tone way darker than Ken's. The arm completely smooth, not even a trace of hair. And that thumb, it looked totally different. You can't make this up. Then comes our caption, and it's a pure romance novel energy. We've been through storms and seasons, and somehow love just gets sweeter. Nights like these, his heartbeat under my cheek, remind me that our love story is one thing I would never change. And she tags Ken's account, like that's supposed to clear everything up. But besties, tagging someone isn't DNA evidence.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard, are you cheating on your man? I don't know. This is all alleged. But this hand does not look like the hand of Ken. I might be wrong. And we're going to go back and look at another picture. But I want y'all to look very carefully at that thumb. Okay? And the amount of hair on this arm. Now, granted, the arm is a little bit darker. Maybe he's working outside. They say he's working outside, but hold your horses. She says, we've been through storms, seasons, and so much together, but somehow it gets better. And she talks about her love story, the fake one that she tries to convince everybody of, which is why she constantly posts stuff like this. But this is Ken's hand. Look at that thumb. That is not the same thumb, in my opinion. And it's not the same amount of hair, in my opinion. What do y'all think? Let's spin the block again. This is that hand. That thumb does not look like the same thumb. And knuckles being dark like that dark, I don't know. This looks like a brown man. I don't know. What do y'all think? Oh, here's another picture. But look at the amount of hair that's on that arm. And he's a little bit darker in this picture. Of course, I'm pretty sure this picture was edited because this is a professional photo. Oh, she looking goofy at us. Like, girl, why you looking so goofy at us like that?
The internet wasn't buying it, not even close. Within minutes, the comment section turns into a full-on investigation. Fans are comparing past pictures, zooming into old clips, dissecting every pixel. Some are saying, nope, that's not Ken, while others are like, why does this look like someone totally different? Gypsy finally replies, very casually, by the way, saying, Ken's arm just looks darker because he's been working outside. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but that excuse, it felt off. Like the tone did not match the scandal. If you were innocent, wouldn't you sound a little more defensive? Instead, she sounded rehearsed, like she said it to herself a few times before hitting pause.
Gypsy posted a picture of her and Ken like snuggling together on the couch. You can't see their faces though, you could just see like the arms. And when I first glanced at this, I said, what man is she with? I was like, that's not Ken, because his arm is really, really, really dark. And I was like, huh? I was like, that's not Ken. But in the comments, she said it is Ken. It's just that he works outside now. So my question is, do you guys think that he's working with Rod?
like on the boats, because that's the only thing I could think of, if he's working outside. Let me know in the comments. Do you think he's working with Rod? Oh, and I want to add one more thing. Okay, if he is working with Rod, that's going to be 10 times harder for Ken to leave this relationship if he wants to leave, because his job is dependent on her father, right? That might, not work out for the best in the long run. I don't know. We'll see.
And here's where my brain went. If Ken's been working outdoors, that means he's probably busy or away a lot, right? Some even think he's working with her stepfather, Rod, the one who's often gone for days sailing. So maybe Ken's away and Gypsy's home alone with her thoughts, scrolling through her feed and missing that attention. Maybe these posts aren't really about showing off love. They're about holding on to what's slipping away. Because if you look closely, Ken's energy, it is off. He doesn't comment, doesn't repost, doesn't even match her captions. The silence is louder than any love quote she's writing. And if you scroll through her feed, it's a pattern. It's all love declarations, gushy confessions, and perfectly posed couple moments. But behind all that glittery affection, you feel something missing. It's like she's performing love for the internet instead of feeling it in real life. And the more you read those captions, the more it feels like she's not trying to convince us or even Ken. She's trying to convince herself that everything's still perfect, that the fairy tale isn't cracking, but it is. You can feel it in every word. So now we're left asking, is Gypsy Rose truly turning to faith, or is this another performance designed to control her image? Because she's reinvented herself so many times, it's hard to tell where the act ends and the person begins. If she truly wants redemption, it won't come from hashtags or jewelry. It will come from truth and from finally facing herself without a camera. But maybe that's the hardest part for her, living without an audience. Living without an audience. And at the end of the day, Gypsy Rose is still performing for a world that can't stop watching. And maybe that's the real tragedy. What do you guys think? Is this Gypsy's genuine rebirth, or just another chapter in her long, complicated story? Let me know down below, because honestly, I am still trying to process it all.